Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Each and every week now that Washington have had their bye, they've gotten ready, they're preparing. And as we said, this is the time of year where you can't leave anything undone that you think needs to be done. So what did we do this week? We're breaking this down. We're going to talk ball this week. I want you to listen to Donna. You have to, mark down a few things that Donna said, but she's even on point this time. It's just like they said in Macbeth. Where should we three meet again? The thunder, lightning, or in the rain? Look who I'm meeting. I brought Donna Hopkins in, and then I brought the big Trey. What's up, Trey?
What's good, Tony?
Hey, man, every time I look at you, I'll be so glad I wasn't playing during your era.
Yeah, man. Real men stuff. Real men stuff.
That's what we're talking about, man. So we're going to get started here, but I hear your kids are taking after you, and you got some athletic children.
They're better athletes than me, Tom. My daughter was a two-time All-American, two-time All-Big Ten at Ohio State. My son, EJ, is going on a lacrosse scholarship to Hampton. My baby boy, Easy, is our resident monster. He was a starter on varsity football and is now endeavoring into wrestling. And my baby girl, Muffins, is also a lacrosse goalie, and she's going to be awesome, too.
You got an all-star. You got an all-star family athlete. You could coach and everything with that group.
I do.
So I thought he got equal opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, the girls got a first
about equal opportunity. And when we talk about equal opportunity, and we look at what's happening right now, say the playoffs. One thing that I was telling Donna prior to this show, the one thing that kind of I don't sit easy with is it's about 8 or 9 teams in the NFC that can make the playoffs. Therefore, as Washington plays, but they have 4 games, they have 3 very winnable games, but they can't afford to lose any game because like losing a game is like double, Donna. So they got to really win these games, and they can't worry about nothing else because if they lose one, they got about 7 teams waiting to take their place.
Hey, Tony, you are exactly right. This is a tough stretch for this Commanders team. Like they said, it doesn't matter about what you did in the early part of the season. You better throw that on out the window because this is the new season right here for this team that's getting ready to go play the New Orleans Saints. And I was talking to Coach Quinn today just about, making sure this team is sharp going in to this next game because you and Trey well know that when you take that bye week, you got to make sure that you come back sharp. And the players talked always about that, Tony, when they won their last game in this bye week and coming back sharp. But these are such crucial games that they have to play with the Saints, with the Eagles, the Falcons, and then finishing up against the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about this being must wins. Every game for this team looking across the NFL with the NFC teams that's jarring to get into the playoffs is so important. And the Commanders right now are at number 7, so they don't have room to have any hiccups, Tony. But before you bring Trey in to just dissect this a little bit more, let's go to the presser that Coach Quinn talked about getting ready for the Saints this week. And they may have Lattimore, possibly. They just got to see how that plays out this week.
A lot of the players talked about after the win and then going into the bye. They talked a little bit more about coming out of the bye. What are some key things that you'll drill in this week to make sure that they come out sharp and not flat?
That's a great one, Donna. And I think you're right. The practice is where we really come together as an entire team. And the urgency at practice, that's the marker, because that urgency can also help you with the focus. That urgency can help you with the communication. You've been a part of a practice where it's fast and it's upbeat and you're hearing that type of communication. So what we did today was to set us up for a great week. So jog through, some throwing, some catching, the communication, the line of scrimmage, it was all designed to, as going into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that we can really throw a hell of a week and have ourselves a championship week in terms of the preparation of what we do. So having a day like today is important. I wouldn't have wanted to come in just, from the bye and right into the Wednesday. So today was kind of like a setup day. Get everything orchestrated, situated, work out, so by the time you do get to Wednesday, you can really let it rip. And that's the urgency at practice that I'll be looking for, and that will carry over into the game.
Hey, Trey, you know what he's doing. He didn't talk about, he just got an extra day of practice in. That's all that was. But at the same time, I can't go against that. They got to have every facet of the team ready. And Trey, this is what I want to ask you. We've had some different thoughts and process when we talk about the offensive line. We know when we have strong running backs that they can run the ball, but we've also seen them struggle in the past. Is our offensive line ready for the playoffs? They may be the one key component that we got to really make sure they're ready. Talk to me.
I agree with you 100%, Sean. I think the offensive line is always the key to victories and the backbone of any team. But in this case with Washington, it's never been more apparent. Like you said, they struggle with the pass pro. And I think if you give this kid number 5 time, he can pick people apart. His ability to escape, the way his poise, and the way he's been producing so far, I think he can do big things. They've got to step up. If they can't, you may want to max protect a little bit. But I think it comes now. You're not going to build anybody or bring in anybody new at this point. It's coming down to coaching now. The O-line coach, the OC, Dan Quinn, got to know if we can't get it done, and which you would hope wouldn't be the case, you got to find a way to bolster the O-line and bolster the protection and let your playmakers make plays.
Hey, Tony, did you hear what Trey said? It's going to come down to coaching at this state of the game. Because the players, Cornelius Lucas just got back before the bye. Wiley, don't know if he's going to be ready this week. But as he said, Gary always say, coaches coach, players play. But as Trey said, it's coaching at this point.
Well, I agree with Trey totally on that. But at the same time, I figure at this point, I even want the water boy to pour the water right. I want everybody in the building that's going to get it rain to do it right. And I don't care who it is. I remember one time we had a Super Bowl and some of the guys that didn't get the opportunity to play, and they didn't give them reins at first. And I thought that was wrong because you know what? Some of those guys went out and practiced as hard as we did to get us ready for the game. So when I look at this, when you start talking playoffs and you're talking about desperation, you're talking about everybody in the building. I tell you what, if they beat a cornerback, I want the janitor to throw the gun, to throw the broom down and get out there with his gun. I want anybody that can help because and Trey, you know that. Trey, didn't you guys have a year like we did where you won 10 games and you didn't make the playoffs? I know we had one.
Yeah, we won 9 and didn't make it. We went 9-7. We started off something like 7-1. We only had to win like 3 more games. We won 2. We didn't get into the playoffs. Yeah, we had that type of year, bro.
And that is a hurting feeling, is it not?
It is, especially when we caught some injuries. We hit a couple of stumbles where if we would have had the opportunity, I think, to get healthy and come back, and the coaches learning from their mistakes and being able to adapt and overcome, I think we could have been a problem.
Donna, you think them using Terry the way they're using him now? And I'm not going to say that scary Terry crap, whatever they're saying. Do you think the way they're utilizing him now is putting more threat on the defense, making them have to worry about him early than late, and making that passing game go a little better?
Yeah, I think more so than just using Terry that way, because if you notice the last game that he played in, they moved him around. Which to me was more effective. Teams weren't able to just capitalize him one way. And to me, he was more productive that way. But it's coming down, Tony, to the running game. I know we're talking about Terry, but it's coming down to that bread and butter. The offensive line, as Trey can allude to, likes to block for the running game. And Brian Robinson, right now, Tony, 156.9 yards per game on the ground for this Commanders team, and total yardage 377.6 for per game. So when they're ranked 5th offensively, so when they've got the tools and everything, but they have to be able to attack. The way they came out the last game, they attacked from the beginning instead of holding back. And you look at this Saints team where Derek Carr won't play this week because he got injured, a hand injury, so he won't be in the lineup. But as y'all know, the Saints could be a dangerous team, so the Commanders can't worry about the Saints more so that they have to worry about themselves and what they do as a team. But I think that the key thing, Tony, beyond Terry and that passing game is they have to let Jayden be Jayden and not hold him back. Whether it's running the ball, passing the ball, I don't care. and then get that running game going with Brian Robinson and Rodriguez, and once they do that, Tony, I think that they'll be okay. That's to
I
me.
agree with you, but one thing I do think, Donna, and I'm jumping around this, so I'm going to jump at the teams that's gotten hot. We were talking about they thought they were dead in the water. You talking about the Philadelphia Eagles? All they had was a running back. Now he's MVP almost. You got a quarterback there. You got a team that their defense is, I didn't know, is rated so high. And now we've given them opportunity because they had a stretch in there where they were not playing well, and we did not take as much advantage of it as we should. So when I look at this defensive line, and starting with this Saints team, they are going to have to show up playing well. And their best player, he's going to be there. But will all four of them be there? And I'm coming up with them early because if you look at this Saints team, they're dangerous. They've lost 3 or 4 in a row. That's the only reason the record is what it is. Prior to that, they were doing well. So what you got to look at now, Don, is you got to get to – we talked about offensive line, defensive line got to do their job. Do you think they're capable of doing it?
Oh, yeah, Tony, but you're talking about the Saints, talking about this. They are weak, Tony. I mean, they still got to play. I think that it comes down to the Commanders, but right now, the Saints, to rank 25th against the run the ball, Washington. Run the ball, Washington, and then allowing 134.2 yards per contest. But, Tony, it comes down to, again, the Commanders doing their part. But I think, like you said, that the defense, I think this Commanders defense has played well. I think that they've stepped it up over the last few weeks, and the defensive front has created a lot of pressure. You got Frankie with 8.8 sacks, and then you got Dante Flower with 8.5 sacks. So the defense has played well, and I think that going in against a Saints team that's wounded, ain't got nothing, but they still are in the playoff chase by a little bit, Tony. But still, I think this Commanders defense has played well. And look, Tony, we even got Gary that decided to join us to get into the conversation.
Well, he had to get that fruit out of his mouth where they brought him in on, how they bring him in on those big things and everybody is cheering him in. And so, hey, Gary, sir, we're going to take a break now. If that's okay with you. I know you're in black right now, but we know you're cool. But we'll be back in a minute, gang. And all of you realize this is for Mr. Gary Clark, wide receiver extraordinaire. We'll be back in a moment.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya. They're great.
Crystal City Sports Pub, located in the heart of National Landing, is ranked one of the top 20 sports bars in the country. We are open 365 days a year. Crystal City Sports Pub, with its laid-back atmosphere, is the place to be. We offer 3 levels, over 100 TVs, an 18-foot video wall, pool tables, 3 full bars featuring 11 beers on tap, an extensive menu, and super friendly staff. We offer on- and off-site catering and ample space to host private parties and gatherings. Come experience Crystal City Sports Pub. It is the place to be.
Right now.
Well, I know you individuals are looking, saying they started the show about 15 to 20 minutes ago, but they bought a superstar on late. Well, you know what? You have to wait for him. He had to finish his shower. They had to dry him off. He ate some grapes, had a steak. Then he came over to spend a few minutes with us. And I just got to ask him how important it was to give that up, to spend his time with us old, broke-down football players and a young lady that's trying to learn the game. I'm talking about Gary Clark.
Tony,
What's up, G?
Tony, I don't know what you took your car through, but all that mud I had to, get off your car.
Right.
I mean, it took me a lot longer than I thought it would be.
Wait a minute, G, you've been washing this car for 6 years.
It's perfect for you. Like, it's polished. It's perfect Rolls Royce now. It's unexplainably clean.
And Tony, whoa, wait a minute. You ain't got to tell me no football stuff. I don't know what you talking about there.
Well, you don't know basketball, so how you got to know something
it all,
to be on the sports show.
Donna be stealing everybody's picks.
Right. Hey, Gary, isn't this something I hear? Her picks always cut. We never hear her picks.
Okay, let's talk about your 1 and 4. I ain't even gonna get on the picks yet.
Oh, you gonna come down on the brother like that?
Yeah, because you called me out.
G, hold it. You know what? That's all right. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm calm now. Hey, G, let me ask you something. Before you got on, we were talking about these games. We were talking about the importance of it. One thing we do know, they got 3 games that they can win, but at this point in the season, you can't count on any win. When you look at this team, we said that the offensive line probably has to be the most ready when they get ready to go into this game because they got the biggest task. Then you go to the wide receiver. They got Terry in there right away, and that changes the game. And we already know what the offensive line is. But do you think this team is ready? Because right now, and you've been in this position, you and Trey before, where you got to win every play, every game, every moment that you possibly can to get into playoffs. And I think that's what this team facing. Don't tell me about Dallas. Dallas already to beat us. Don't tell me about the teams they playing this weekend. And we know that Philadelphia is good and everything, but you got to take each game at a time. Tell me, do you think they're ready, G? We going back and forth. We know they're 8-5. Give me some thoughts. Give me some hope. Give me some love.
Well, if they aren't ready, Tony, they have to get ready. That's for sure. Because honestly, I think we all know for them to have even a small chance of winning the division, they have to win out and hope some terrible things happen to the Eagles. Actually, I think the Steelers will beat the Eagles this week as well. But no, I mean, I think they just got to go out there and play the football. They go out there and play football, good football. They win out. They'll be okay. We all know that they can do that. It's just a matter of if they will do that. I mean, they have those capabilities. They really do.
But you know what, Trey and Donna and you and Trey can jump in on this. It seems like the NFC is very powerful this year. It seems like even though we know that Kansas City's won the Super Bowl and they're winning, I tell you what, I love to see teams barely win during the season because they're gonna get knocked out early in the postseason. I know y'all don't believe that, but do you think this NFC squad, and Trey, you can tell me, just the whole, see, like the NFC is stronger than the AFC to me?
Outside of 2 teams, I would agree. I think you got Detroit. I think Philly's a problem. I think then you put a whole bunch of handful of teams in there who could go either way. Washington being one of those teams. I think, Buffalo's looking good, at least until yesterday. Even then, they look good. But I think the NFC I would agree, is stronger this year, deeper than the AFC.
And Tony, you better be watching out. Trey didn't say Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, because everybody is not looking at Minnesota right now because it's like, oh, man, they lost their quarterback. But Donald has played well, probably the best of his career so far. But they just seem to quietly been winning. And then I know we're going to get to this later on, but Seattle, you better watch them because they seem to have started to get their stuff together, and the Chargers. So I think that this is the first year that when you look around the whole NFL, besides, like Trey said, Detroit and the Buffaloes, even Pittsburgh and the Eagles got to be in there, that it's a lot of teams. I didn't even say Kansas City, and I know that they're stumbling around, but they still winning. But it's a year that you just don't know how it's going to play out.
Well, what's scary is those Rams. I mean, they come back, and those playmakers they got. There's one boy I've never heard of him before, and I tell you what, he's off the chain. Jerry, did you see that catch he made the other day? He put the toes down. And what was so intriguing about the catch, He was right on the sideline. He had maybe an inch, and he was so unconcerned about catching the ball that he was looking down at the ground so his feet would be in when the ball was coming to him. And he made a beautiful catch. I tell you, L.A. made Coop, and they got Coop back, and I know their defense is not the same as it was, but they get a lot of pressure up front. I know they had a rough tear, but I'm telling you what, everybody better watch L.A. just like we don't watch the 49ers anymore.
I'm just trying to figure out why Donna said Kansas City is stumbling around.
I said they stumbling around, but they still
like I like to stumble around. You can stumble around like that with 12 games, stumbling around. I like my chances come playoff time.
Wait, what are they? 11-1, 12-1?
Like the other teams are playing better. I'm like, they're stumbling around and they win.
Yeah, they are. But Puka is the player that Tony was talking about from the Rams, and they seem to have gotten healthy all of a sudden on offense. The Rams have. The way that they looked this past week, the points that they put up, I think that they have basically turned the corner, but it'll be a telltale when they play the 49ers this week.
Well, Donna,
how is it going to be a telltale? The 49ers got their cars.
No, they're healthy on offense. The Rams are.
You said they puking.
I didn't say they was puking. I probably said the 49ers were.
Think you're talking about the player.
Hey, Trey, help me out. Help me out some.
So now you're talking about Nakua? Who are you talking about?
Yes.
The wide receiver, right? 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a monster. I still don't think the Rams up front on offense. I think they, may not have that playoff line, but on the skill positions, they're going to be a problem. I think they're going to upset somebody and then get bumped off. I still ain't seen nobody rumble with Detroit yet in terms of running that ball. And I'm a running that ball and defense type of dude. So any team that can do that, I'm pulling for them. But like Gary said last year, you can't go against number 15 in Kansas City, though. Like this dude,
keep winning unreal.
Huh?
He's unreal.
Yeah. Like y'all, what they 12-1? You can't disregard 12-1. They're gonna get a bye. Yeah, I mean, so that means two other teams gonna knock themselves out. They're gonna get somebody a couple of chump games and be right in the mix again for the AFC Championship.
But can anybody tell me what happened up in Baltimore? I know they're 85, but they just and was it a mistake? And I don't think it was. They have always utilized their quarterback as their big part of the running game. Do you think bringing in a real-time runner, and I noticed some games they don't use him early, some they do, that they haven't adjusted to that yet because they're not the same team any longer. I think their defense also is suffering a little bit. And I look at them because I thought they were one of the two best teams in the league early in the year. But right now, they'll be lucky if they get in as, I guess, a wild card.
Well, Tony, the thing is Derrick Henry, when they did use him, they were winning games. And now they reverted back to the old way that they did things when they didn't have Derrick Henry. And we know what that happened. I don't know if they've got injuries, but Lamar is still trying to run the ball, put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands. To me, I think that's half the problem. And I don't know if some of the coaching schemes as far as what they want him to do, I don't know, but they seem like they're tripping over their own feet. Not anybody else causing the damage. They're inflicting some of these things themselves.
Special team wise, we haven't mentioned them. We need some break off, some people that can break it off. Gary, you came in here as a special, you're going to be a special team guy, but you're so good at receiver. Do you see anybody that could, a lot of times during the playoffs is when team, I remember Alvin Garrett, we got Big Art Monk got hurt, and the next thing you know, Alvin Garrett was up in there getting it done. G came in. G, do you see anybody that got a potential to be a game changer on those special teams?
I just know I don't necessarily see someone, but that someone is existing out there because a lot of times with special teams, next thing you know, it's a person who you think is going to be okay, and then they end up being Brian Mitchell. Like Brian Mitchell wasn't supposed to play special teams. He wasn't supposed to. That guy had never did it before in his life until he came to Washington. So there's always going to be that person that comes out and surprises you and becomes a nice surprise about what they do at the end of the day. So that's what I'm hoping we have in Washington. I hope we have somebody that we haven't seen yet that's special, extremely special at playing that position.
Well, they better get the kicking game together. Talk about the return, people. It's the kicking game that has been suffering the last couple of weeks. And I know that Coach Quinn in his presser on Monday talked about that it was going to be the kicker that they've been going with. So hopefully this week off has healed everybody up, because extra points, as you know, and field goals has been the Achilles heels across the NFL. Look at Baltimore just up the street. They got an all-pro kicker. He's missing a lot. And then you talk about, some of the other people that has had kicking problems this year. So, Tony, I guess, you know what? They choking you up. So I guess we got to go to a break right now, because this team is messing you up.
No, when you talk about choking, we talking about your pick.
Hey, it ain't happening.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50 some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
You're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya. They're great.
Next.
See, all of you people out there that we said, come on, restaurants, we're having a good time. And it's not just restaurants. It's anybody that want to be in our football challenge. We want to see your knowledge. As you can see, we got 4 or 5 people that don't know anything about picking teams, and I'm one of them. But at the same time, the people that we got, Donna, you got a war going on out there. You see people on the street, and they talking about this one going to win, that one going to win. What's happening with it? You know what? It's still people acting like they want to get in, but I think we're going to shut it down, because I tell you, these young people in these restaurants have been in our life for a long time, and they're doing a very good job. Who's leading now, Donna? I'll tell you, I hope you say my hometown people.
Well, Tony, all I know that you and Gary need to get some help from these restaurants, because they're the ones who are really doing a great job at their picks. And in the lead, Tony, still the glory days at 17-2. And on Sunday night, Tony, they're picking the Chargers, Monday, the Cowboys. And Tony, the glory days, got great food and everything out there. Have a multiple of restaurants that you can actually go to. So tell me a little bit about them, Tony.
You know what, Glory Days, and the one thing I really like about them, when we first started this show, they were just beginning, and they had a show in my hometown in Centerville, Virginia, and we went over and did a show for them. Enjoyed the show tremendously, but the wings were off there, and that's where I really got adapted to eating the wings here. And then not only that, you had the people that was friendly, so then they said, okay, we got one in Woodbridge, and we did it out there, and then we had one in Sterling. So we've been with Glory Days a lot, and I'm going to tell you what, they have some of the best wings you'll ever eat. I know it's old school. Just like you were saying, I was about 5 years old when we started this show, and I started eating wings, and so don't try to get my age. But I tell you what, they are tight. But when you start talking about good food all the way around and wings, I know you know Billy now. And talk to him.
Hey, speaking of Billy, Tony, Billy them are in second place out there at Crystal City Restaurant at 16-3. And Sunday night, they're picking the Chargers. Monday night, the Bengals. So they may be smart not going with the Cowboys and picking the Bengals over there. But Tony, as you said, great food out there also.
You know what, Donna, when you go for them from now on, let's start doing something. Let's let them, one of their customers or one of them, ask the question of the week for either the panel or our guest or somebody, and bring it back. We talk about that, and then we can ask that person also, you know, what do you like here? So we can let the fans see we're not doing this just for us. We want you to find out the good places and the loyal places. Because when you talk about we've been here 40 years, I hate to say that, but I love to say it. And these guys have been with us, at least 25 of them. And I tell you, I haven't found any wings that I didn't love with all these restaurants we got anywhere.
Yeah, well, Tony, in second place, right on the heels of the Glory Days and Jim, is Crystal City Restaurant, but Crystal City Pub will not be outdone over there with Jim, and they are 14-5, so they're in the chase also. Sunday night, they're picking the Chargers, and Monday night, the Bengals, Tony. So Crystal City Pub, another great place to go to. Gary and I have been over there quite a few times.
Well, did Gary, then I understand whenever Gary comes in, this pheasant on the glass or something, or what do they do? They ride him in a limousine. Is that right?
Yeah, Tony, I believe that that's true. And they roll out the red carpet for Gary. And I only get that because I'm with Gary. So they have a special table for Gary when he comes into Crystal City Pub. So he's got the carpet laid out, and I'm just, you know, on his shirt tail because I'm coming in with him. So they treat me good too.
But don't you quit, because I'm trying to get that job there. So we got somebody, who else?
Well, Tony, we got Kellogg's over there. Brian is still doing a great job at 13-6. And like I said, we still got a lot of games to go. Nobody is out of the race. And they're picking on Sunday night the Chiefs. They believe in the Chiefs, like Trey, Gary, and you said. They don't care about I said, stumbling and still winning. They're the only team, the person that, you know, beside one other person that's picking the Chiefs. And Monday night, they're picking the Bengals. And Tony, Kellogg's, we can say a whole bunch about them.
All you got to say is they feed the world. That's all you need to say. And I tell you what, we got somebody all the way from Battle Creek, Michigan, that's involved with our pick. You tell we riding high. You know, we out in the tall cotton right now. I don't know what we're doing there, but we out there. But I tell you what, y'all keep looking at that, and we'll keep getting those picks. But you know, everything now is competition, right, Donna?
Well, no, competition still, because we got Still Familiar. They're at 9-6. Sunday night, they're picking the Chiefs, just like Kellogg's. And then Monday night, they're picking the Bengals, Tony. So, as I said, this race.
I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm asking you too, Donna. For some reason, I kind of fell for that trap too, but why are we still picking Bengals for anything? We keep talking about they just another bad team right now. Every time I look up, even I had to slap myself the other day. You know, I'm picking. I don't understand that. Why are we still picking the Bengals, guys?
Hey, Tony, they can still put up points. That's why we still picking them, because they one of those teams that can upset anybody, no matter what the record is. So I think that you can count them out. They may not be going to the playoffs or anything like that, but they sure can make it tough for people also, Tony. But, Tony, we got to transition just a little bit, because we have a medical piece that we did. And, you know, Lamar Hammer up in Buffalo a couple of years back that got hurt. Well, we had an opportunity to hear from the chief medical staff for the Commanders and for the NFL pertaining to health and safety for players. And it was an informative conversation with the doctors of how game day works for the safety of the players. So let's go hear about what they had to say, Tony.
A couple years back, you guys remember the Damar Hamlin incident. People often ask me, well, what were you thinking and what was going through your mind in that moment? And I said, what was going through my mind is that they're doing what they've trained to do. 60 minutes, 1 hour before kickoff, in every NFL stadium before every game, there is a meeting. It includes all of those 30 medical professionals I said before, so doctors and trainers from both teams, all those independent medical personnel, the x-ray staff, the paramedics, and the referee. So the white hat comes to the 60-minute medical meeting. The referee wants to establish a visual identification, say, okay, if there's an emergency, this is who's probably going to run out on the field.
And so even though there's consistency across how we do the 60-minute meeting, we're constantly revising how we can improve player health and safety. And so the 60-minute meeting, not too dissimilar to airline checklists, where we always review, we always confirm. It's just another step in that process, again, to just really make sure that despite any sort of revisions or updates, that everyone's all on the same page.
The emergency response physician and the airway physician will be stationed down here. There'll be spotters up in the booth.
You can really assess a player well. You can do the exam well. And it allows you to get a lot of information that is otherwise quite confusing without the tent. It sort of allows us as a team to communicate. We use earpieces and headphones also to communicate. But when we're in here, we can also communicate and come up with a plan, do a very good exam, take our time.
So we mandate that all concussion sideline examinations happen in the tent. Okay. If you see the team doctor and a player coming in the tent with someone wearing a red hat, that is a concussion evaluation. That red hat signifies our unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant.
Nice with having unaffiliated neurotraumatologist there with the exam is that it's a very stepwise approach to just confirming, and it just allows us to make that assessment.
By our spotters, and again, they're going to control the video and send down to us the relevant video that's related to the injury of question. And then, as I mentioned before, we can put on a headset here and have a great conversation.
So this system is great because it allows us to quickly review any injuries that take place and then to communicate to either the staff that's on the field taking care of the athlete or anyone that's getting x-rays to check for certain things. And so this system's used almost every injury.
Welcome to the other piece of our health and safety hub here, which is our spotters booth. So who's inside here? There are 5 people that are here on game day. There are 2 athletic trainer spotters. Those are typically athletic trainers who've worked in football at other levels and who are very familiar with the game. Essentially, one of them is assigned to one team, one to the other team, and they are watching the field continuously looking for any player who might be injured at any time. Sitting in between them will be an unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, another one of those neuro specialists like we talked about downstairs. What Hawkeye allows us to do is have access to all the cameras in the stadium that these folks can control and look at from a medical standpoint. So typically in an NFL game, there'll be 30 to 40 cameras, sometimes 50, 60 cameras for a playoff Super Bowl. And essentially we have access to any of those and those feeds in real time to be able to use and look at for the spotters and for the medical personnel. Essentially, I liken this place to an air traffic control tower, okay? They're up here watching everything that goes on the field and all the players, but in a very different way than you and I might watch the game. They're not watching where the ball goes or was it a first down or not. They're looking to see, is anybody slow to get up? You'll see that in here, they'll often look at the field directly and then have the game on a delay of a couple seconds so they can rewatch any of the plays. If there is an injury and then someone's going to go to the cart, then they again will have the other half of these headphones that you saw down there, and they'll be able to say, hey, here's what we saw, here's the best angle, there's a magic button, okay? There's a button right here, and if the spotter pushes that button, it connects them immediately to the referee, to the white hat, to stop the game. We give the spotters the ability to stop the game if they see a player they think might be injured who's still on the field and is not coming off.
Well, Dr. Sells, Tony, that is the head person for the NFL, said that 32 teams they had 32 of medical timeouts, which is low for this team. So the information was so great as far as the tools that they have in place for player safety. And the reason why that Buffalo situation went so well back then was because of the protocol that they have in place.
I tell you what, and you go back to when I played and other individuals played, and the medical field is so important now. I watched some of the greatest players in the world have their careers cut short just because they did the best medical situation they could. One was Dick Buckus, who really started my career for me, and Gail Sayers. I played with them. I was enamored by those guys, but I watched them get hurt with injuries that shouldn't have messed up their career or even that year, but they didn't have the same thing then as we do now. So anytime I see medical and see miracles that happen like it happened up there in Buffalo, I am thankful for that, because one thing about it, and Gary and Trey will tell you, football ain't nothing just to, it ain't nothing to play with. If you're gonna play, you better be serious, because it's a game. It's a man's game, a woman's game, or whoever want to play it. But it don't matter who play it. When they get 60 years old, they gonna pay for it. I said that.
Tony, yeah, Tony, I'd be curious to ask, because the medical field and the technology has come along so far ahead than when all of you all played. But what is the things that you all are impressed, Gary, Trey, and Tony, about just how quickly they handled that situation up in Buffalo that prepares them even more so now? And I'll start with Trey, and then Tony, you take over, and then Gary.
Now, we only got a minute. We want him to get this in.
Are we referring to the Damar Hamlin thing?
Yes.
I think the preparedness and organization in response to that injury was impressive. I mean, it happened. They dealt with it, saved this man's life. He's balling this year. I was impressed with the overall preparation to deal with a situation like that.
And it really was the teamwork.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Trey 100%.
Yeah. So, Tony?
And, I've seen different things on the field like that. And as they say, they were organized, they got it done, they worked together, and they saved a life. And I tell you what, that was more interesting than the Super Bowl that year, because to see that young man still here, still doing it, and, we know God is in the work, but at the same time, it's just great to see that we have grown like that, because I've seen guys down the field. I've seen guys get their ankles broken where they facing the other way. I've seen a lot on the field. And it's a brutal game at times. But at the same time, if you have a good staff, it'll take care of you, and you take care of it. We'll be back in a moment, talk a little bit more about around the league, talk about what the expectation is. As you'll notice, we're looking at Washington, and we're not trying to be biased, but we do know what they need. I'll tell you a little joke about that when we get back. We'll be back in a moment.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya. They're great.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50 some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
With only 3 down linemen, defensive end pressure had to be constant, and it was. Left end Tony McGee led the team in sacks, while right end Richard Bishop, number 64, ranked second. McGee, number 78, entered the game in passing situations to pick a quarterback's pocket. While Chicago for Week 7. The defense came up with another superb effort, holding premier runner Walter Payton to just 42 yards in greater glory.
Good.
Okay.
Always pause as it come down. Good form on his heels. Love that. There you go. That's good.
Well, Ricky took a break because he was busy with Thanksgiving, but he got us back on track now. So we worked on leg strength. Great piece from Ricky Tony to get us stronger for the finish the year strong, just like the Commanders. And Tony, so let's go around the league a little bit right now because there's some hot games taking place. And I'm going to start with you because the Buffalo Bills at 10-1 are playing the Detroit Lions at 12-1. Buffalo ended up, I think, taking a L last week. It was a great game, but the Lions looked like they were dead in the water and fought back and won that game. So how do you see the Buffalo Bills and the Lions in this home stretch?
Where's that game being played, Donna?
At Detroit.
Okay, that's all I need to say. But at the same time, if you take a look, I am thoroughly impressed with both of those teams. I feel like right now, Detroit, I was saying they were the best team in the NFC. I think they're tied with them and maybe Philly, I'm about to say. But if you take a look at it, they proved a lot. They've gone up this week and got better talent. Then number two, they've got the quarterback, whereas they do not allow him to run like they did. I think that's important. But number three, they showed this week that it doesn't matter how far they get down, you cannot rest on them. And that game this week told us one thing. Told us LA may have a little bit left in the tank, but it also tells us Buffalo is going to be coming. So when I look at them, I have to take Detroit because I'm from Michigan. But I tell you what, I got a lot of respect for Buffalo.
You better stop picking with your hearts because you're from there and pick with the team that you think are going to really win. But Trey, I'm coming to you. Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-3 just look like that they're dominant on defense, and they're playing at the Eagles, who barely got past Carolina this week. The Eagles are at 11-2. Talk to me about these two teams and how you see that playing out this week.
Like I mentioned earlier in the show about running games and defense, I think Philly epitomizes that. I think Philly, like Tony said earlier, went through a slump. I think they're working their way out of it. I ain't seen nothing like Saquon Barkley in a minute. I mean, he's doing big things. And then now them Georgia defensive kids are starting to step up for Philly and making problems. They can stop the run. They can get pressure on the passer. I'm going to go with Philly on that one.
So do you think Pittsburgh's defense is dominant? I mean, because when you look at them, they're stopping everybody.
I believe they're dominant. I think Philly has a solid O-line, though. I think Detroit has the best O-line in the league. I think Philly is the top 5 O-line. And nobody's more dynamic with the ball in their hands than Saquon Barkley right now. So I think not that Philly doesn't have Pittsburgh doesn't have a great defense. I think, if Jalen, it's all going to come down to Jalen Hurts and whether he can spread the ball around and add to the running game. If he does that, I don't think I don't think Pittsburgh can beat them.
Exactly.
Yeah, hey, Gary, I'm coming to you. The Packers are at 9-4. They seem like that they've got new life. They play at Seattle, and Seattle also has played well at 8-5. I think they won their last 3 or so games, but the Packers also beat the Lions, beat up on them last week and scored 31 points, even though they lost. But how do you see these two teams that seems to be coming on when it counts most at this part of the season?
I quite honestly have those teams as dead even. I'm going to give the edge to Seattle mainly because they're playing at home. But I think both teams it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a war. But I think Seattle has a little bit more motivation playing at home, and they'll come out with the win.
And look at this. Right now, Seattle, they lead Arizona by 2 games and hold the tiebreaker, while the Rams, who Seattle played in week 18. So it's going to come down to a great finish. But Tony, I'm coming right back to you. The Minnesota Vikings seem to just be winning over and over again. How do you just see Minnesota in finishing? Because nobody is really talking much about the Vikings, but right now they're one of the top teams in the NFL right now under Sam Donaldson that has really played well.
They brought their backup quarterback here into Georgia and beat their last starter. They played well. They're real disciplined, excellent running game. Defense is very active. When you take a look at the receiver, they got a couple of old-time game breakers in there. And you look at that offensive line, it's dirt and blood, and that's what they need to have. I look at them, but the one thing that they have is the element of surprise. Nobody knows how good they are till they see them. There and he's playing well. They say, wow, what do we have here? And it's too late to do anything about it. That is a team to keep your eyes on. They're dangerous. Now, they do not have that surprise that they used to have of the cold weather, but I think this year they got the talent.
Hey, Trey, I'm coming to you right now, and I'm coming around to everybody because right now when you look at the playoff pictures in the AFC, you've got the Chiefs at 12-1, and then you got the Bills who already clinched that division at 10-3. So if you were to pick which team, and these are the two teams that are playing in the playoffs right now, Super Bowl, and then go over to the NFC East, the Lions at 12-1 and the Eagles at 11-2. Who do you pick in the AFC to win, and who do you pick in the NFC? Starting with you, Trey.
Hey, I'm going to say Bills AFC. I'm going to say Detroit NFC.
Wow. You didn't pick that Kansas City. Tony, I'm coming to you. AFC, NFC.
You don't say.
So Tony don't know. So Gary, I'm coming to you. It's basically AFC, NFC.
Kansas City, AFC, NFC. Wow.
Yeah,
NFC, I have no clue.
Okay, I'm going to come up now. You got to have somebody, G. Come on now.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if I go dark horse, honestly, if Burgundy and Gold can play the way that if they can play how they should play, I like being the dark horse. I mean, I like our chances. No different than how we came out of the NFC and ended up winning Super Bowl 22. We weren't picked to win. You know, we weren't supposed to get past the second round, but it starts to seem a little bit like that right now, quite honestly. So if I got to pick a team, why not? I don't know, so I'm going to go with Burgundy and Gold, baby.
Hey, Tony, you didn't never say the AFC and the NFC. Who you picking?
When I look at the AFC, I'm not going with you guys right now. I think that I'm looking at other young teams, and I'm looking at if they could grow. I don't want to give up on Maryland as quickly as I have. I'm hoping they pull it together. If they pull the running game together along with the weather, you're going to be surprised. Okay, the Baltimore will be the one. As I look at it, I know that Detroit, the only thing worries me about Detroit, do they still have the mental aspect to go into these tough games? Yeah, you can go into a game where it's not going to mean your whole season and go for a 4 for 20, but when you do that when the playoffs is on the line, all they got to do is become playoff ready. They got the best team. So I look at it as either going to be in Maryland or Michigan, the M guys. And when we come back, you'll look at the trophy. For us, it's going to be either with me or Gary. We'll be back in a moment.
In the Minute with Tony and Donna. You can catch them weekly on their podcast, and you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel, In the Minute.
Frosted Flakes good? They're great. Great.
They're still great, Grandpa.
See? Told ya. They're great.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
one more thing.
As you can see with the picks, Gary and I are giving them a head start. We like them a lot. We've let them, they haven't beat us in so long, so we're giving it to them. We may be terrible, but one thing, we are the favorites. And when you talk about the favorites, let's hope we can get Washington in that group. Let's hope that they'll go and do what they need to do and make it happen. But last but not least, let us come back next week and give you the true information, because one thing we don't do, we never say goodbye. We always say in the minute. And guys, thanks for coming on, Big Trey and G, and we'll see you all next week. Have a safe week and a happy holiday season.